Do you ever get those feelings like you've seen a show but you couldn't figure it out if it was true or if it was some sort of fucked up fever dream or the Mandela effect? That was me when I found one of the most peculiar moments in my childhood, an obscure 1992 kids game show called Double Time with SplatShock. SplatShock is shown as a cartoon lightning bolt with a superhero outfit and mask. The show aired on Nickelodeon back in 1987 for the episodes aired reruns on Nickelodeon in 2003. It was supposed to be a part of the Nick Gas lineup, but due to the slow process, the TV series didn't come out until the reruns were shown. One of the first things I thought back on was the first time I watched the episode. The show randomly came on TV one evening around 4:30 on a Tuesday. The episode started with the average narrator saying something in the lines of, "And now, it's time for Double Time with SplatShock," and the host coming on stage. The game goes like this. In the theme and style of Legends of the Hidden Temple, they must solve clues to piece an accident, like a game of Clue. If the team finds the clues, they move on to the confession table where they must pick out 3 of the suspecting criminals that caused the accident, and the final task is racing around the game studio to capture the criminal. The winner team receives a big prize. The show was doomed from the start of the pilot. When camera crew started filming the intro, the animation for SplatShock glitched out, making the mascot vanish and replaced with a SplatShock _test image frame. When the host introduced the team, one of the teammates had a seizure, causing the crew to do an emergency cutoff to replace the teammate. After an hour of commercials and the show returned, one of the spotlights suddenly exploded, sending shards of glass. Half of one of the teammates were in the crossfire. Mass panic ensued. It took almost 2 hours of technical errors and production explosions to get to the official game. Indiana Oops and the Exploding Crate, taking the Indiana Jones brand for humor. When one of the members mentioned about the clue of Indiana Joel's missing gun, the cameraman, Jerry Smith, had the gun. Then he proceeded to point it at himself and fired on the spot. The camera switched to a new camera person, Brian Anderson Jr., which at the big screen display to show a playback recreation of the accident. Just as the host was finishing explaining of the rules, look for other clues or any other implications to the criminal's story. The big screen displays shook violently. A dark brown substance leaked from the screen. It was thick and smelled like grease. Then the screen suddenly slammed down and smashed into the host with a deafening thud. The Nickelodeon executives were panicking big time. This was costing their money, production, and time. With all the pressure getting to the executives, the show's airing was later taken off after the next commercial break, replacing it with SpongeBob's special, The Sponge Who Could Fly. The production area that Double Time with SplatShock aired in was revamped into the studio for Brain Surge and later Family Brain Surge. VHS copies were scrapped, destroyed, and even burned in multiple fire pits. Sub-copies surfaced, including some screenshots, which were gone or deleted, and the singular clip of the introduction of the show when it first aired, which now remains as a disturbing stain on Nickelodeon's crippling empire. Wow, and that was Double Time with SplatShock, written by PhantomInc. Review time. I actually really like this story for a lot of reasons, because this is what I think to be a retake of the terrible A Night of Nick Gas story that was narrated by LaFonda and Lord Phantom. Because thank God the protagonist is not an actual idiot. And it mainly instead discussed of a game show that is doomed from the start, that has been riddled with so many difficulties. The grammar was really great. It's a good story. But overall, the plot hole needs to be addressed, because why would they create a game show that has so many technical difficulties, resulting with someone getting injured to the point where they had to cut to commercial break, or for someone to unfortunately themselves for no reason in particular. It was thrown there for just shock value, I think. And thankfully, the idea for Nickelodeon game shows to be made into creepypastas do have a potential. Because this short story is not only really good, because it does have like a concept that did not have a train wreck load of so many cliches from terrible stories, terrible creepypastas that you have read back in the early 2000s. Because this was creative. The person did a good job at conveying a story with everything lining up together to how, like, Nickelodeon being this crumbling empire. And I just want to say this. If Nickelodeon were responsible to create this game show, wouldn't they, I don't know, have to be smacked in the face with, let me see, pay so many OSA violations and pay the fine for someone's funeral? Yeah, because I know I'm sorry for getting overly dramatic. My final ranking on this story is a 6.5 out of 10. This story does have potential, but overall, it's really good, and thankfully doesn't have a load of cliches like the other game show story. Once again, this is my own personal viewing and criticism. I am not doing this for the type of harassing others. It's just my own opinion. Thanks, and have a great night.